Right, it's a Sunday, another end to a week, the Road to Cape Point Challenge. I made a little bit of an oopsie. I thought the first qualifier for the Cape Point was going to be this Saturday, and I kind of started planning my weekend around it. Unfortunately, it was for the Sunday. Why I thought it was on Saturday, we'll never know. Kind of a big one, so I planned my week around doing it, and then found out it wasn't on Saturday, it was on Sunday, and I already set up things because that Saturday was my birthday, so I wasn't going to be this side, so I ended up not being able to go to that paddle. So a little bit of a disappointing week because of that, but it was kind of just a mistake anyway. So Monday did a little bit of a nice easy 10k. Wednesday, took Tuesday off. Wednesday I did another easy 10k. This time I decided to jump in my ski instead of paddling on the flay where I have been doing most of my paddling. I went to go on a surf ski, which is just so much nice. I find paddling on a surf ski just so much more fun. I'm pretty sure it's because the surf ski rides on top of the water, so it's slightly easier. Whether that's true or not, we'll never know. But K1 is just more boring as a general rule. So yeah. Then Thursday I took off, and then Friday I took off because I thought I was going to paddle Saturday. Halfway through Friday I realized I'm not going to be able to paddle the next morning because there's no qualifier. And then I saw my mate, went for drinks, and the paddle didn't happen the Saturday morning. So bit of a bummer week. Only ended up doing 20Ks, but that's still more than the previous weeks because I've been sick. So not as much as I wanted to, but sometimes life happens like that. I think what's interesting is just having this record. Sometimes I find it really, really hard to sit down and record this video. Like not even 10 minutes ago, I was sitting on my phone. I just finished dinner, finished quite a hectic day at work. The last thing I wanted to do was record this thing. But now I'm doing it and I'm getting into the flow, which is kind of cool. And I feel like there's an interesting thing that's happened with, not that I think that this is an extremely difficult thing to do, record yourself once a week, heading towards a goal. But I think about it a lot more often. And the benefit of doing this thing hypothetically where I share it, instead of just writing it down in my diary as I have previous years, is that I feel a little bit more accountable. I definitely think about training a lot more. Clearly not this week as much, but we won't talk about it. But I think there's a lot more thought that goes into it kind of every single day, and not to romanticize or anything. But one of the strange things that I found happen is that almost immediately on starting to do these things, I found that I've done other things that needed to be done in my life. For instance, I'm a real estate agent, and a lot of how you become how you make things happen as a real estate agent is just consistent work. Nothing, and I've been saying this quite often, is like nothing I inherently do is particularly difficult. It's not particularly difficult taking a buyer to house. It's not particularly difficult filling out a mandate. It's not particularly difficult, making one cold call. Like you can do one cold call. The really difficult thing is doing all of those every single day, every day of the week, all of the time. Like that's really what becomes really, really difficult, is that halfway through Tuesday, I'm like done, like emotionally, like just with the week and stuff. And I just find that that's something from a consistency perspective that I've always struggled personally with. Godfrey Marker, who was a coach to me for a little bit, always said this one thing about consistency is the essence of progress. And I work for David sometimes. They said a similar thing to me, and I always used to think about that a lot. I always used to think about consistency is the essence of progress. And I got really into it, and as everyone 16-year-old kid, I started spewing this stuff in the world, but I was never consistent. I don't even think I've ever been consistent at anything in my life besides being inconsistent. I feel like I'm an extremely inconsistent person. But I'm not complaining about it. I just think that's an observation I'd make about myself. But I feel like I'm trying to change it. I feel like a lot of growing up is realizing that you need to put arbitrary structure in your life. This YouTube thing is arbitrary structure. There are 3 people who watch this sometimes. It's arbitrary, it doesn't matter. But it matters because now I did the things I wanted to do. So it matters to me. And the reason the story has a point is that It was my birthday on Saturday, and I got a group of very close friends to play Dungeons and Dragons with me for 7 hours. And Dungeons and Dragons is a game that requires a lot of people to care. It's literally a game where you imagine things in your mind and you roll dice to see whether you can do them. And it's a very nerdy, it's a very niche thing. It's not for everyone. But for 4 years, I dreamt about playing Dungeons and Dragons. And it's nerdy. I listen, I understand how it sounds. But for me, it was something that I always wanted. I originally got some guys together, didn't quite work out. I still wanted to play. I still wanted this game so badly. And finally got a group together, finally started playing. And after 4 years, I have a group of people who all have their own lives. They don't have to do things with me. Decide to spend an entire day rolling dice with me in an imaginary fairy tale land that we made up together. And all I can think about is how I never once stopped wanting to try get a group together. I never did and everyone, and I just consistently was just looking for people. And it's not an amazing story. I didn't fucking run a marathon or do an ultra marathon, but it just drove home this idea of consistency, consistently pursuing a goal. And I did that just for fun. And I'm doing this thing consistently to train. But off the back of that is I'm consistently getting work done. I'm consistently finishing the thing I should do instead of which is very easy, I'll do that another time. So it's been really cool, just as an offshoot. It's more of an observation because it wasn't really a great training week. So this is the end of week 5 of 14. Then we're going to start next week 6 tomorrow. And then I'm just going to carry on the training. I'm going to continue with this 1 day off, one day on, 1 day off, and then a long one on the weekend, definitely this coming weekend, because I can't miss it again. But that was just the final observation that I was having and a thoughtful process in my car. And as someone who likes to think, I like to talk about it too. So cool. That's the end of week 5, getting into week 6. Not going to miss the next qualifier. Really cool. Having a great time. Hope you are too. Have a great day, week, year in life, and I'll check you next week. Cheers.